All right, all right. Welcome to another episode of Life Change Lounge, where Rosa decided to make herself at home here, and we've got another puppy roaming around. I am Salo Ortiz, the owner, founder, CEO, all that stuff about, with Life Change Institute. And this is my special guest today that we are going to have a great conversation with. We're just going to have some fun for the next hour. If this is one of your first times tuning in to Life Change Lounge, this is an hour where we get to talk about life change moments in real people's lives. Unscripted, unfiltered, and just kind of real and raw. And that's what we were talking about earlier. So I just want people out there to see what life change looks like in a real day-to-day thing. These are not paid actors. These are not sort of paid moments because I don't make enough money. And we ain't making the money off of this, but we just want to bring real life. And so I'm Sal Ortiz, a licensed clinical social worker and owner of this company, and I have a guest with me. She's got a dog with her, and I've got Rosa, our other service dog, with us. So you may see some things and hear some things that are different than other broadcasts. We're just going to roll with punches. We will be here for an hour. We welcome questions. Bring them in on the chat if you're watching this live. Bring them later on lifechangeinstitute@gmail.com. We will take your questions, and I will definitely be sure to forward them to Kerri. And so I just want to get to it. This is my friend, my friend that I'm building in a relationship with because you know my wife, and I just love this woman. This young lady I called her this morning the beautiful train wreck.
Yeah.
That is Kerri. And that was a compliment. And she took that hopefully as that.
I did. It's the only way to describe me, I think.
It's just a life that I think just speaks to what we do and who we are. And so Kerri is born and raised here in Virginia Beach. God bless her. And has just an amazing story. But it's the true story of an overcomer, true story of a perseverer, somebody who will take the challenges life gives her and either sit there and roll over or do something with them. And that's what I love to be able to bring today. So we're just going to have a conversation about that. She is a creator, an artist. I'm trying to make her a therapeutic, art therapist.
We're getting there.
Yeah, my Jedi mind tricks. She's an editor, a publisher. She is a writer. She does so much. She's a dog mom that has 3 dogs that all have hilarious nicknames and all have issues, and she takes care of my Rocky, who is actually a character himself.
Yes, he is.
Rosa is too bougie for her own good and will sit next to her now, but she will not let her take care of it. But so she just does so much.
She'll just judge me every Wednesday when you drop Rocky off.
She's been judging me for 5 years, so don't worry. So I just want to introduce to you guys an amazing friend, somebody that I call a partner in crime and a friend, Kerri Caldwell. So welcome to the show, Kerri.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Why are you excited to be here? What about this excites you? Because most people get freaked out over this, and you're not even, you know a little bit about the movement and the cause, but why are you excited?
I guess it's to share there's so many people that can relate to any aspect of what I might share tonight.
Gotcha.
So, and I've been sharing with the articles I write, the stories I share, so I know that I'm reaching people.
Yep.
But you can only reach so many people doing one outlet.
Right, and so finding different mediums, right?
Yes.
And so you guys will see, during this Life Change Lounge moment, I'll be on my phone, not to be rude to Kerri or to you guys, but just to be able to field questions and those sort of things. So please, bring them in. This format, I told you, Kerri, was only two scripted questions. The beginning one and the end one. So that even that first one wasn't scripted. 2 scripted questions. I'm going to hit the first one. What was the life change moment that we're going to kind of focus on? And then at the end, what does life change mean to you? And so that's what I want to kind of focus on. Life change moment you heard, or life change, you heard what it was about. You've had many life change moments. You've had time to think about this over the last few weeks or so. What is your life change moment that we should talk about?
I narrowed it down to 2. So I think the biggest one, though, was going through a life-changing illness. That was not only because it affected me while it was happening, but it's going to affect me for the rest of my life.
When were you diagnosed? So we're talking celiac disease.
So I started having symptoms in 2013. So and I didn't get diagnosed until 2015.
So you went 2 years trying to figure this thing out.
Yeah, I was sick. I was 97 pounds. I couldn't work, and I was misdiagnosed a few times. So that's why it took so long.
So, okay, so I know you're not supposed to ask a woman her age, but we're talking because I want to be able to get a perspective of some of the impact it had based on age and stage of development and all those sort of things. In 2013, you were how old when you started?
I was like 27, 28.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was, yeah, I was about 27, 28, and I had just like gotten back on my feet. My parents had died when I was 23. Like financially, I was getting back on my feet. We had our apartment. We were getting.
How do you glance over? My parents died when I was 23.
I guess.
And then this was my life change moment. Can I pump the brakes?
So
Can I? I mean, what the hell?
Well, I say it because when my parents died, a lot of people came to my aid. They came to help me.
Right.
Whatever you need, let me
Right.
know. So
Right.
when I got sick, I lost a lot of friends because I was kind of homebound. I was in the hospital a lot.
Right.
I couldn't do a lot of things, so a lot of people just kind of left
Right.
me out of there. And honestly, sometimes that makes me feel better because then I don't feel like I'm letting people down.
Right.
But that's why I say that was so life-changing because it made me more isolated.
So where you found community, belonging, kind of those sort of things, when you went through the loss of your parents, this was so different and this was so foreign, so unknown that people didn't know how to react.
I think that's what it was. They didn't, even I didn't realize it when I was diagnosed how life-changing it was.
Mm-hmm.
So even now, been like, what, 5, 6 years?
Mm-hmm.
I'm still learning things. I didn't get a service dog until 2 years ago because
Wow.
they didn't even have gluten detection service dogs.
Wow.
They weren't even really a thing when I was diagnosed in 2015.
All right, so celiac. All right, we know gluten and that whole thing, right? There's a big, so I'm a carnivore at heart. I am eat whatever, and this
Yeah.
is just. So those of us who don't understand gluten issues, those of us who don't understand all these different dietaries, what is celiac disease? What makes it different than some of these other things that we hear about?
So it's autoimmune, and it's lifelong. There's no cure. The only cure, it's not even a cure. The only way to keep it
treatment, maybe.
Yes,
Mhm.
is gluten-free diet. Unfortunately,
Mhm.
things can be labeled as gluten-free as long as it has less than 20
Mhm.
parts per million. But that is enough to make me sick and send me to the hospital.
So you can't have zero. Yours
Exactly.
is 0, 0.
Zero, nothing. And because it's an autoimmune disease, any kind of stress, any kind of like a cold will give me symptoms like I've been gluten.
Mhm.
So even if I am not having gluten, I'll have symptoms of it just because it's autoimmune. Anything can trigger it.
And so by symptoms, you're talking what? I'm 32 years diabetic. I get symptoms. I get reactions to sugar, that sort of thing. But by symptoms, you're talking about what?
It's like food poisoning, like instantly.
So puking and...
diarrhea, all that. That's how I lost weight. I went from 120 pounds to like 98 in a matter of like a month.
Wow.
So yeah, it's like immediately. So that's why I don't eat in public. I do with Maggie now,
Mhm.
but before I wouldn't, because one bite, 5 minutes later, I'm already in the bathroom. It's no
Right.
fun for anyone involved. So.
And it almost forces you to live in this sort of fear, this apprehension of what's
definitely.
next.
Oh yeah, because even after getting diagnosed, I was still nervous to go anywhere because it still wasn't under control. Because even though I was eating things that said it was safe for me, it actually wasn't.
And you have to learn all those things the hard way.
Yes, definitely. Luckily, there's a huge community online. And there have been people that were diagnosed in like the 80s where like nobody had any idea. So there's people that have been doing this for a long time, and I can go into the little group and ask a question and I can have an answer in like seconds.
Is it it's autoimmune, but is it kind of genetic in such a way, right?
It is genetic. The
so
only
somebody
way
in your family
that
had
you
it?
can get diagnosed is to get a genetic, to see if you carry the gene. There's 2 genes associated with celiac. So if you don't carry either of the genes, then you're not going to be.
So who had it in your family?
I don't know. Neither one of my parents ever had symptoms. So and I'll never know which one I got it
Right.
from. But
Right.
I didn't start showing symptoms till 27. So.
Right. So I'm dumbfounded by. So look, I'm a therapist by trade. 20-something years of doing therapy, and we look at grief and loss, and we look at traumas, as in the loss of parents, and I can't imagine, right? But this was more impactful than that, and I get the sense of community. People came along to help. But did the same people try to help with this came up, or was it this more isolating, or did you isolate yourself more? I'm trying to understand that.
No, it was they say like death and illness will show you who will stay in your life, and for me it was the illness. Like, you know, and in the beginning people would stop in and say, hey, how you doing, check in, and then after a while I guess it's old news. Oh,
right.
You're still sick. Oh, you don't know what's going on. It's same thing that's been going on.
Yeah.
And so I think that might have been why. It was more isolating than losing my parents.
So I was diagnosed with diabetes at 12. Went through puberty with it. You were 20 something losing your parents, mid 20s, later 20s, going through this. And so was there a period of kind of not even the why me so much, but what it was kind of not being able to fit in or whatever. I mean, you're 20 something years old. I remember it was a long time ago, but I was 20 something. Like,
I think when my parents died, there was so much going on, but I was healthy. So I could
you can manage.
Work.
Yeah.
I could go do things and get my mind. I was, my health wasn't in jeopardy.
Yeah.
When my health was in jeopardy, a lot of things were happening at the same time, like my depression, my anxiety.
Right.
I wasn't able to work.
Right.
How are we going to pay the bills?
Right.
So it was like a bunch of different things coming, and I had no answers. When my parents died, I was able to work. Even if I wasn't quite dealing with it, I was still distracted by it. But with the illness, you can't. It's always with you.
It's there, right? That's a really good way to put it, Kerri. It's always with you. I can't run from diabetes. I can't run from my depression, though. I can't run from some of the things that we always carry with us. No matter how far we run, we're always right there, right? It's how it says.
For me, once I got the diagnosis, I just needed the answer so I could figure out what to do with it, how to handle it. And now that I had those answers, it's not like I have this thing for the rest of my life. I'm never going to be able to do anything. I just needed an answer so that I could figure out my own way how I'm going to deal with it.
So do you think I don't want to say you've figured it out, but you not even mastered, but you've got those answers, so you're good? Because I'm 32 years into this.
That's what I'm saying. So, I know, okay, so my diet. When I had no answers, I was like, am I going to die? That's what it felt like. I was like deteriorating away. I couldn't eat anything. I couldn't keep anything down. I had to have a chair in the shower just because I was so weak. I was malnutrition.
Yeah.
So that's one thing celiac does. It corrodes away your intestines, so you can't absorb any kind of food or nutrient or anything. Gotcha. So you're literally like starving, even if you're
dying
eating.
From the inside out, sort of thing.
So living like
that's
that
crazy.
For 2 years was just like that was the worst.
So all right, so real. This is Salo Unfiltered at 7:13 at night. Yeah, you're in trouble because the meds have worn off and I've been through enough of the day. Did you want to die?
I did. I just wanted it because it was so bad waking up every day and just living the same thing. Like, I don't know if you had food poisoning or the stomach flu.
Understood.
Imagine that 24/7 for 2 years.
Right. With no answer of it going away ever.
Exactly.
See, like people are, so look, here's the funny thing, right? So I work with addicts and I work with recovery. Even going through withdrawal, you know that there will be a period of relief.
Yes, exactly. There was no end in sight.
Right. Diabetes, my sugar is low. It'll come up at some point, or the high sugar will come down at some point. There's something you can do. Depression, it comes in waves. Anxiety, there might be, right? And these are constant things that we deal with forever. There is no answer to this.
And I was seeing so many doctors, and they were like, oh, we're going to test you for this. And so I'd be like, oh, good, I'm getting tested. And it was always like, no, it came back fine.
Wow.
And it got to the point where I was like, I'm hoping for something to not be good because then that'll be the answer.
At least you have something.
And I went through so many, they thought I had Crohn's disease.
Right.
Because of the way my intestines looked.
Right.
And so I was misdiagnosed with that, and they actually use chemo to treat that sometimes.
Wow.
And when it came to that, I was like, no, I want to get a second opinion. I don't.
Wow.
So that was what led me to the doctor I have now. It took her 1 week to diagnose me with celiac disease.
Wow.
Because I'm one of the rare ones where you can check my blood, and even though there's inflammation, it doesn't actually show up in my blood. So that's how they monitor it. So she was the first one to do the genetic blood test. And then the only way to diagnose me was to do an endoscopy where they go with a camera and take biopsies. So that is the only way, every 3 to 6 months, getting a biopsy to make sure
Wow.
that I'm not having any
Yeah.
kind of reaction.
So I'm absolutely fascinated. I don't know if anybody, is on here fascinated. I am like, yo, and this is a genuine reaction. Like, you and I have been talking for a while, but
But not about this.
Not about
it's
this.
about dogs.
We talk. It's always about the freaking dogs. And even this morning, we talked. I saw Kerri this morning, and we were talking about the difference between transparency and vulnerability. And I told her, like, one of the things that I talk about all the time is that you can be transparent, but that doesn't mean you're vulnerable. You can tell people all these things. My parents died. I got celiac. Whatever. I can't do this. And that people will take that as vulnerable, but it's not. And I said, this is going to be a challenge for you because I don't know you like that, but for us to be vulnerable in these moments. And so part of my own personality is to ask the vulnerable questions. But it's just a lot. I've been through a lot of life, and that's a lot. I understand, Kerri, not wanting to die because you wanted to get an answer. Then I got this shit. What kept you alive? What kept you kicking? Because I hear I wanted to fight, now I know what to do. That sounds great, and I believe it, too, because I know you, and I know myself. But I also know myself, and I know these seasons when I'm like, man, fuck it.
Yeah.
What kept you going? Why didn't you?
I think, I don't know, as soon as I have a challenge, I have to be able to say I overcame it. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen my skate videos. It drives people crazy. I will slam and fall for 3 hours until I land the trick. That's how I am with everything, though. And people are just like, I don't understand it. It's like, that's just how I've always been. Even if it's going to kill me, I want to be able to say, oh, I did it.
Yeah, so, look, we in our profession talk about not having a quit in us. I'm not a quitter. I don't know what it's like. Doing therapy for myself now, just working through the desires to quit as I get older, but never knowing quit, never knowing, right? I've been through some things. You don't know how to quit.
Yeah, and I can see how it can be a problem, but that's not, and I've been like that forever. So.
All right, so not quitting. I won't quit because I don't want to accept failure, or I don't quit because, right? Is it you don't quit because you haven't found the answer? Or I want to, like, because even now, my motive for not quitting is to do stuff like this where I can impact lives or whatever. You don't quit because you don't want to accept failure. Why? Are you afraid to fail?
I don't think it's that, because I'm not afraid to fail, knowing that I'm gonna get back up and do it again. So I don't want to ever be that person that was like, I don't know. There's a lot of people in my life that are like, oh, I just couldn't do it.
Right.
And I can't be like,
right.
I cannot say that.
Right.
Even if I can't master something, I need to at least be able to say, I tried, I did it, I can move on.
So, the depression and the anxiety was more situational in trying to learn to adjust to it, or does it still exist? Was it always there?
Well, I've had depression. I was diagnosed with ADD when I was like 8.
Gotcha.
And then my whole family has had depression. So, but I didn't start dealing with that until maybe like high school. It was when I came off my ADD meds, though, that actually came through. But their anxiety and depression are symptoms of celiac. And they can become more intense.
Right.
And then there's the whole, I didn't really know about it until my doctor told me about the gut-brain connection.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, this is real.
This makes sense, Yep.
So those were other things that I was like, okay, this is why I feel this way.
Yeah.
If I get better, I'm not going to feel this way.
Yeah, so treating one part treats the other. We talk about a lot in therapy about being a holistic approach, right? Body, soul, mind, spirit sort of thing, right? And so how you address the physical and what you eat, how you sleep, all these sort of things, and how it can then improve other parts. We think directly, and a lot of people think, Kerri, that put a medication on it or just address this.
Yeah.
And it'll address, but it's not. It's going around it almost to make sure that this gets taken care of too.
And I used to be like so against like medications. My dad was very addicted to painkillers. He was in the Vietnam War, and that's kind of like how the VA treated them. Just throw meds at them, and then So I think that's where that came from. I just wanted to do everything without meds. So I was like the opposite, where most people are like, no, take meds and then you'll be okay. And then I had to come around to the fact that, okay, some parts of me need meds, and they do work.
Yeah.
So,
it's a balance.
Yeah.
It's a balance of the two. Yeah, I get that in my field all the time. People are like, no, I don't want meds. I don't want meds for my depression. I don't want meds for my addiction. It's the balance. And I don't want insulin. I have a machine attached to me for the last 20-something years.
It
but I need it. Right.
Yeah.
So keep your questions coming in. Life Change Lounge here with Kerri Caldwell, and we've got a question that came in. I encourage you to type in the questions here, and I'll get them sent here, and we can ask them in real time, or wait till the end. We'll have some question and answer too. So Kerri, I got a question here. It says, do you feel people in healthcare, or people like the healthcare workers, think you're exaggerating or being dramatic when you were looking for help? And I ask because as a chronic pain and fibromyalgia patient, it's very hard to get people to understand and take it serious. True.
Yes, it's an invisible illness. So it's
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
you can't look at me and be like, oh, there's
Yep.
something wrong with her.
Yep.
So, yeah, and I did. There were so many times that they were like, we can't find anything wrong with you. There was times they thought I was like bulimic or anorexic.
Yeah.
Or that it was only anxiety causing these symptoms.
Yeah.
And the last test that I got with the doctor that I have now that diagnosed me, she called me and said, we have your results. And I said, this is it. If I don't get answers, I'm giving up. Whatever happens.
Wait.
happens.
So you would have given up?
Yeah, I just would have been, because that was like almost 3 years.
Huh. Okay.
And I had already had like
Interesting.
surgeries, like other things
Yeah.
to see if that's what was wrong, and it was never what was wrong.
Wow.
So I was like, you know what, this is it. This is the last time. I was like, if it is Crohn's, I'll try the chemo, whatever.
Yeah.
So and that was because of that, because the doctors were always like, there's nothing wrong, we've done this and this and this.
Yep.
So nobody could find out what was wrong. What if it really is me?
Yeah, and is there some of I'm going to play devil's advocate big time, right? So we have folks in my field who will constantly, my urge is to point back to the loss. It's not this, it's that. And you're like, no, dude, it's my biological, it's this stuff. No. You're just reacting as a result of the loss. You're reacting as a result of, and they will point to other things or point to your brain or whatever rather than, right? And so we talk about psychosomatic, right? I think about it long enough, it affects my body, and that's what they're saying. It is the invisible part. You don't look sick.
Exactly. I
You
get
don't
that
look
all
sick.
the time.
I hear it a lot too. So it pisses me
Or
off.
like when I was like losing weight, people are like, oh, you look so good. And it's like, I can't even go to work. I would rather be heavy or what people think are fat just so I can go to work. And that was what I would tell these doctors, like, I can't take care of myself. I can't do the things I love.
Yeah.
Why would I be doing this to myself?
Why would I choose
and not
this?
be able to like skate? Skating was like my passion. I couldn't skate, that was another level of depression. Because that was how I dealt, got out, did things, and dealt with things. So
maybe it is a pity party. I'm gonna take the gender part of it, right? Damsel in distress. You just wanted, the helplessness that is a young lady that's like crying. Oh, I'm so hurt, and what you wanted somebody to take care of you. No.
Well, there were. And I'd hate to say this, but they were all male doctors. It wasn't until I got one female doctor who referred me to another female doctor that she had diagnosed me in 1 week. She had me in to get an endoscopy, so I had to go under.
Wow.
They did the camera.
Wow.
And she had me diagnosed within a week.
Yeah.
So, and obviously, and I wanted to just go back to all those doctors and be like, look, this is what was wrong with me, and you were telling me that it was nothing.
Here's what it is.
You almost made me go through chemo.
Yeah.
Because you thought that's what was wrong, just because you wanted to give me an answer. They're like, we've gotten everything out of the way, this is the only thing that it could be, so we're going to go with this diagnosis.
How do you deal with the other things that it's impacted, right? And so you talked about other surgeries, you talked about the impact, from being able to go grocery shopping and eating. I get that. That's the natural. But all the other, how do you deal with the peripheral sort of impacts of this?
I ended up with a lot of other health issues that are also lifelong. I told you about the Cushing's. So before one of my first surgeries, I've always had hypoglycemia. So I've always had low blood sugar. So I know how to handle that, and I know what it feels like. So I told the doctor, I was like, I'm really shaky. I think I have low blood sugar. I had to do like a prep the night before. So of course I was like, I haven't been eating. So they're like, well, before we give you anything, let's just check it to make sure. Instead of it being like in the 50s, it was like over 300. So they're like, oh, maybe this is another reason you're sick. So I was diagnosed with pre-diabetes for the longest time. It wasn't until my GI doctor now caught the cortisol. That's what causes Cushing's. You have elevated cortisol. And there's nothing you can do about it. Your blood sugar will rise with any kind of adrenaline because your adrenals are damaged. That's what regulates your blood sugar. So that's another thing that I'm gonna have to live with, but there's nothing I can't take insulin. It's not like
Really?
I'm not producing it. It's just that my adrenals, it'll go down after a while,
Right.
but
It's the excitement factor.
yeah. So
Well, what about from a family standpoint?
like what my family deal or
You even your own. I mean, you're in a relationship. You're
well,
young
that
still.
was that, and it's another thing that celiac impacted very largely was I had that it affects your reproductive organs. I had to get a hysterectomy, so and celiac causes infertility too. So that was why all those years we were never able to get pregnant.
Yeah.
And then
Damn.
I had to have the emergency hysterectomy. It wasn't even like I had time to prepare it either.
Right. You couldn't get your head straight over it.
But I think that was good. So I couldn't think too much about it and then get in my feelings about it, because the minute I woke up, my doctor was like, "You look 100% better." I was like, "I feel 100% better." So it was hard to be bitter about that, but I'm still I've had plenty of friends invite me to baby shower, stuff like that. I don't know that I ever will be able to, but
I don't know that you have to. It's not that you have to get over it or whatever. Like these sort of things some people say. This is real life shit. Like it's gonna impact a lot of things. I mean, I know that, and so it's not even that but you also wrestle against age. Like again, look, you see, on camera it's not that bad. You see all the white hair. Like in person, there's a lot. You see it, right? The camera adds, takes away 10 years.
There you go.
But I'm older. You're still young. You and your
and
fiance.
that's what a lot of people are like. Oh, you can just adopt, do this, and it's like, I still have days where I can't even take care of my dogs.
Right.
So first of all, if anybody even came and approved me for adoption, that would just be a whole other guilt.
Wow.
I get upset if I can't take care of my dogs. How would I feel if I can't take care of my kids?
And does the fact that I know I can look in the mirror, like for you, look in the mirror and know that I'm feeling better, or get up and move, still trump, man, I want this? Because in therapy, when I work with my addicts, when I work with my clients, I tell them, I know you want to get high, for instance, but I know, what do you want more than you want? And rather than trying to just say no, Nancy Reagan, old school, right? I want this. I know this works, but I want this more. And so I have to challenge myself to keep going for this. So is it good enough to feel good that it almost overpowers the fact that you would want a kid?
Literally up until a couple years ago, it was day by day. If I would wake up feeling okay. So, and it wasn't Maggie.
Maggie's roaming with some wires. Y'all might see something fall in a second.
Hey, Maggie. Maggie, come. She knows she's stuck.
There goes one of the lights. We'll see. We're losing lights. I think we lost sound.
So I was actually getting ready to talk about her, but now she's ruined everything.
Give us a second while we figure out what we lost. I don't know what we lost.
Are we still on at least?
We're on camera, but that's the fun part of. I think
Maggie.
we just lost lights. No, we lost power. Here you go. Here you go. We'll put this over here. That's the fun part.
That's why we call her Maggie Mayhem.
Maggie
Wherever
Mayhem
she goes.
Fits, man. It totally fits.
Now she's just helping herself to some water.
So the good thing is we got this microphone, so we're picking up something. While we're trying to get this reset, Life Change Lounge, we're at 30 minutes in, and you're doing great. This is okay for us. Let me get the lights over here. This is awesome. You couldn't script this if you wanted to. We're talking about, you were about to talk about Maggie, we're talking about just kind of how to adjust to this stuff. Keep bringing your questions in, guys. What do I was saying feeling better versus wanting, right?
Right, so I was saying before it was I would wake up and be like, am I okay to do things today? Mm-hmm. So, and that was because I was still, even though I was eating things labeled as gluten-free, they weren't 100% gluten-free, and I'm that sensitive that I can't even have a little. That's why I break out. If my dogs eat something and they kiss me, or I touch something. So my GI told me about a Gluten Detection Service Dog. Wow. She said, I think you qualify. You can't just go and get a service dog. Yeah. I didn't know that either. So she was like, I think you qualify. I can write everything up, get your doctor approval, and see about getting a dog. It wasn't even that one of my dogs was going to be trained, about getting a service dog. Right. So at first I had to find somewhere to do it. The closest place I could find that would even be willing to do Gluten Detection Service Dog was in Maryland. Wow. They would come to Virginia and train with me and Maggie. They were willing to give Maggie a chance because not only did I used to train dogs, but she was a therapy dog.
Yeah.
So they knew she already had like the temperament.
Yeah.
She ended up being their first gluten detection service dog for that company.
That's awesome.
And then it took about a year of her checking my food that I finally got my first endoscopy back where my intestines have actually healed.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
just that is proof that what I was eating, even though I thought it was okay, it was
Mayhem.
still doing damage to my intestines.
Yeah.
So she's...
Maggie is the 14-year-old kid in the background that's just wreaking havoc. And it's funny because, on camera, y'all can't see this. Y'all see
so
this
her
part.
job is to sniff my food, but she thinks her job is to sniff everything, and that she's literally going around the room sniffing everything.
All night long. So Maggie really changed it for you a lot, right? And so I'm not the quote unquote dog lover of my family. We know this, you know this.
We do
But
know
she
this.
changed the game. Rosa changed it for me. And she did it from a depression standpoint. Maggie changed the game for what your ability to be able to invest in life.
Yes. And before this, I was only, and even now, I'm still only medically cleared to work 15 hours a week.
Wow.
I still can't work full time. But having her check my food and realizing things like silverware might have gluten on it, and then I'm putting it in my mouth and damaging myself, it's made that much of a difference that for 4 years I was having an endoscopy every 3 months and it was still showing damage.
Shit.
After having her for about a year, I got my first endoscopy where it was completely clear, and I haven't had one in probably a year and a half now.
Wow, good for you.
So having her, and that was another reason I like sharing my story, so that other people can learn about a gluten detection service dog.
Exactly. So look, this is a really good one that came in. Keep the questions coming in online, guys, and if you need them later on Life Change.
I don't even know if I fully answered the last
one.
one.
Oh, you did.
Okay.
No, you did good, because this is what Maggie has done. The impact. What I picked up, Kerri, was the improvement of overall sort of functioning of life that she's done. I don't talk about it enough, right? Shout out to Kelly. She said, nothing's changed. I'm not the dog lover, but I have to acknowledge, therapy has helped me acknowledge, life has helped me acknowledge that this dog did change my life. I said that on camera. It's going to live in infamy.
It's going to live in forever.
I didn't say good or bad. It has improved a lot, and I know that, and you've seen that too, and we're able to acknowledge that. It's funny to be able to take somebody like me who was not a dog lover to acknowledge that it did make that much of a difference. You liked animals, you saw the impact, and immediately you're like, next level, I can re-engage. So you did answer it. It's huge.
Okay.
It's huge. Question came in, says, thank you, Amanda. Have you been able to find support groups and people you've become close with that have celiac? This is the time for you to shout out your peeps.
Yes, so there are I am on 6 groups on Facebook that I as soon as I was diagnosed, I went in there and I started asking questions, and I'm telling you, in seconds, I will have an answer from somebody, and it'll be the answer I needed, because there's so many people that were diagnosed before me that have already learned things that even 6 years into this, I'm still learning things about celiac disease and the way it can impact me in different ways. There's over 300 symptoms associated with this disease.
Damn.
And it's it's a 6-year average to get diagnosed.
Wow. And you did it in what, 2, 3?
3. So, there's a lot that goes into just getting diagnosed, and there's even more into living with this, because it's with you the rest of your life, and there's no cure.
Right.
The diet is the only way that you're going to live a somewhat normal life. So, like I was saying with Maggie, I took her to a restaurant, and she marked the silverware as having gluten. She marked the glass, because it's like...
Yeah.
The best way I ever saw described was when COVID started, and they're explaining germs, and the guy had paint.
Yep.
So he would touch a bunch of different things. You don't realize where the paint ends up.
Yeah.
That's how gluten is. It could be on the steering wheel.
Yo, and I gotta tell you, real talk, Kerri, this is me admitting, God, again, I admitted I liked the freaking dog. I did. I admitted she helped me with my depression. I did. I gotta admit, I never took it serious. And so I'm one of those people that was all right, whatever. Really, I was like, come on, man. We were cavemen. We ate meat. We're going to do this. We're going to die.
And I was
I'm one of those guys.
We would have the dollar menu for every
Yeah.
And it was I was okay with that. Before I had celiac, I'd never heard of it. I've never, and when you think of gluten, that's the one bad thing is you hear about the gluten diet people do to lose weight.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is another fad.
Exactly.
Like,
it's known as a fad diet, which is why most restaurants don't take it seriously.
Yep.
Which is why I don't eat out at restaurants, because every single time I go out and eat somewhere, she marks the food as having gluten.
Right.
Because, and I didn't understand it before, so I don't expect people in the restaurant to understand it. So I don't go out eating and being like, oh, you should know everything about this.
Yep. Look, Francine, shout out to Francine, because she said Destiny is doing so well at VCU, and thank you. So you must have helped somebody connect somehow.
Oh, okay. You're welcome.
See? I mean, I think that's the thing. I don't know, but you see that you have an impact one way or the other. You see that you're learning as you go, and you're able to impact other people. You see that you're able to educate. Your demeanor, right? You're not, all right, so let me be real raw. You're not an asshole. You could be real nice bitter, right? Well, true. And you're right, I haven't seen the other side.
If this had been 2 years ago, this wouldn't be going down.
Why?
Because I was still in that place where I was still, like I said, getting gluten causes depression and anxiety.
Right.
So I was like, still getting gluten on a regular basis. I still was getting sick all the time. So all that was affecting my quality of life, and I still wasn't able to do anything that I wanted to do, or even that I needed to do, like work, make money for the prescriptions I need to take all the time. So yes, I was very bitter still back then, like not in the place I am now.
So so let me take that and go with it and say that you had to force yourself to transition and get out of that headspace. I know the Kerri now. You're right. 2 years ago, I didn't know you. I didn't have this conversation. I know the Kerri I see, and this is what I tell my clients all the time. Like, I know the people in recovery now. I know this Kerri. At least, like you said, I'm not on your bad side, thank God, but you're not an asshole. Like, your personality is such that you allowed yourself to change with it, right? So when we talk life change, it's not like just the moment that this was a bad thing and I made it good, but it was like this progression. You're not who you were 2 years ago.
Right.
You're able to manage and educate people about service dogs, about celiac, about taking questions that are sometimes dumb. And you're like, bro, really? Like, you're not that person.
But I think it's because, like, growing up, I was never, like, a normal, typical girl even. I grew up smack in the middle of two boys.
Right.
So I was very much a tomboy growing up.
Yep.
You know, I'd get in fights at school with I mean, like, I was not normal in any way, so I think that's why, like, I don't feel like I'm different. I know I am, but it doesn't bother me. And it's like, so I've been dealing with my whole life. I remember, you know, just recently somebody said tomboy was like a derogatory thing. And I was like, I grew up with that, and people were like, oh, you're a tomboy, and it's always a good thing. So that's why I made that shirt, because it's not. I don't see it as like something
you own it.
Or
we talk about, so in diversity training and in those things, we talk about reclaiming words, right? You have in African American culture in the word nigger, right? Or in LGBTQ communities, right? In the word slut or gay or faggot or something like that, where they were derogatory, and now we owned it. And so you even take tomboy to say that it was something from a gender standpoint that's taken as derogatory or mean, and you're like, no, this is mine, and I'm reclaiming this word to give it new power or sort of new interpretation.
Yeah, because I mean, no offense against feminine girls, but I don't want to be known as that.
That's not you.
Exactly, that's what it is. I'm not that. But I have plenty of friends who are, and people are like, oh, well, if you're one type, you can't be friends with another type. That's
right. And you don't like. So here's the other thing that I'm learning about you just tonight is that you don't like the boxes either.
I don't.
You
like
hate
I said,
boxes.
From like day one, my parents knew. They were like, she's just not gonna be. We cannot describe her.
Yep. So a question came in and said, did you go through a process similar to grief, right? So the 5 stages of grief, Kubler-Ross has the 5 stages of denial, bargaining, anger, depression, acceptance, right? And so you go through these sort of things, and we talk about grief and loss, not just in losing people like you, with your parents, but even the loss of a lifestyle or sort of thing, and you go through the grief process. Do you feel like you've gone through that process? Or are you still going through?
I definitely, like, I know I did with my parents, because I was seeing, like, a therapist then, and I was like in denial for like long, like I'm telling you, like years.
Wow.
But with the celiac, I would be like, if I could just go back to work, I'll live like this for the rest of my life. If I can just.
Right. You did the bargaining.
Yeah, it was like the most. I was like, even if I can't do it like full time.
Yeah.
And I was happy with the part time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I did do that. Even if I can skate once a week, I'll be happy with that. I can skate once a week now. So like.
So let me ask you that. What helped with the acceptance? What things are happening that you've been able to accept this life or this diagnosis and this?
I think the groups, like seeing how other people, like some people, I think one lady was diagnosed when she was like 6 months old. Wow. And she's like in her 60s now. Wow. So like think about back then, there was like nothing gluten-free back then.
Yeah.
So I see like, I have a lot to work with these, like right now in this day and age. They're always coming up with new things. There's even a test being done for like a celiac treatment, like a.
Would you be a test? Would you be a test dummy? Would you?
Well, I try to, but I don't have the right. I don't carry the right genetic gene. Yeah. Otherwise, I would have. I definitely would have been a part of that study. So, so I think that's where the acceptance comes from. Is that it's always getting better with like the diet, everything that they do. It's now seen as a disability. I think for a while celiac was not seen as a disability.
Right. So you've seen progress in society, progress around you as you grow.
Yes, definitely.
Wow. So this is my own personal. I was thinking about this. I was like, damn it, I gotta ask her this because I joke, Kerri, about the art therapy and you are a creative and all that. But no therapist now? What's up with therapy? Like you don't feel like you need it or what?
I don't like doing. I like being face to face. I do not like doing it on camera.
Okay.
And now I'm just starting to be able to do it face to face with my therapist now.
Okay, so
I have
okay.
a psychiatrist. I'm on all these crazy. I call them my crazy pills. So
she is actually crazy. So she's not dissing anybody else. Again, it's owning and reclaiming the word that's mine, right? So I'll take that.
And anyone that like I used to work with, and Joey's like, "Did you take your medication today?" It's like, no.
Right.
Will you please go take it?
Listen, I say it all the time. Anybody who works with me and who's seen me in action, right? Shout out to my assistant who has to deal with me not taking my meds and being all over the place and knowing that they all have, right? But it's knowing that I have to have a team. You have your your physical team, right? You have the GI and all those sort of things, but you're also saying, I do have space for a therapist. It has to be on my terms that I'm comfortable with. I'm okay with that. I was like, damn, you don't need to. But you also know you need psych meds. You also know you need, there's a full range. You're not saying you're not willing to do X.
Right.
Right? You're willing to do things, but it's got to be that fits in the mold that I'm comfortable with, that I can actually do. Don't try to force me into something. It's got to fit me.
Right.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and that's how I've been my whole life. Like,
right.
Literally, that's how I've been.
And I think I agree with that. Like, people are going to say that we're quick to push to therapy or push to meds or push. I want it to fit your profile, your personality, but here's the other takeaway, Kerri. There is a fit. If you look for it, you can find what you need.
Yes.
Right?
And it's like, and I think that's the one thing my mom said she was never nervous about for me when I was growing up was that wanting to be normal. I was okay with not being like everybody else. And I think for some people it is hard for, like, I for the longest time wanted, I wanted the kids, the soccer games on the weekend and all that, and that was probably like the one normal thing I wanted. And I'm not going to have that, but that's okay.
So we had a question that came in that talked about, are you in therapy to deal with the diagnosis? And so we answered that you're ongoing. Let me take this normal thing. I train on this.
And I do have to say, I see someone that specifically deals with chronic illness, infertility. I made sure to find someone that was like not just a regular therapist, like, right? Deals with. I actually found one who actually has she has other patients with celiac disease and stuff like that. So
the cool thing about that, Kerri, is that again, like if you look for it, you'll find it, right?
Yeah.
If you find exactly the specific things, but you have to be willing to look for it. You have to be willing to go through the trial and error, right? Or say maybe they don't have this, but
I think that's more of like my stubbornness, where I want to be. I'm not afraid to keep looking and looking and looking. I never want to be someone that settles. So even like looking for a therapist, I didn't want to just like be like, oh, the first two weren't what I wanted. I'll just pick a number or a name. So
Could you be? Is the goal? Oftentimes, again, in recovery or mental health, people want to work in this because they've then found healing. Can you be that go-to for somebody? Like when we look at like Kerri the therapist, I have big dreams and big plans for Kerri.
My thing was always like, can you be crazy and help?
Great question. I'm so glad you asked.
That, like,
Yo, you know how many times we get this question?
But I always want to be like, if my psychiatrist or therapist knew I wanted to do this, but they'd be like, oh my God, the things I've heard you say and the things I've had to help you through,
So
do not do it.
let me ask you this. This is now you know this stuff is unscripted. You've known me long enough now. We've had enough conversation. Can you be crazy and do all this? Like what you know of me. Granted, you don't know a whole lot, but you've seen some of how I interact, how I am with my family, how I am with my dogs. You know I'm not stable.
Yeah.
Can you actually be crazy and do this? You think?
I think so because, but what if you're like.
What?
You're not coming to me
right.
seeking help. You're already like on a different level.
Why?
Because do you see somebody?
Hell yeah.
Okay, so
I got 2 shout outs to both of them.
That's what I'm saying. So if you were like at your lowest and you came to me and I'm like all over the place and like, would you feel?
So here's the funny thing. So this is where Kerri gets to learn about me. This is why you know it's a conversation. It's not just a straight interview. Like. I do have depression. I did wrestle with meds, and I'm still trying to explore how to treat my depression. Have been suicidal, wrestle with wanting to live regularly. Now, it's funny because people will see Life Change Institute, people will see Meridian as a practice, people will see the things that I do and say like, nah, that's not you. I get so many compliments of you're so positive and you're so engaging and enamoring, right? I'm the motivational speaker that wants to die. Go figure, right? Like, and so I look at this, and even when I do therapy, I'm not your normal. I'm a foul mouth choir boy. I eat during sessions. My dog's walking around. I just kind of do me because I had to be me. I had to be myself, similar to you. And I wrestle with what we wrestle with in our field is this imposter syndrome. If I came into this, I have to sort of fit a mold. But why can't? This is where I was going to go with the question. Why can't I be the damn mold? And so I wrestled with. I know you appreciate it because you're like, I want to be a trendsetter.
I feel like I'm a mold in so many other places, like girl skaters, stuff like that. Like the things I did growing up. I tried out for the boys soccer team. I was the only girl that made it. So like stuff like that. So it's like.
So why is it different for this? Because it's sensitive?
I feel like it's not my. I don't feel confident in this area. Like sport, like stuff like that. It's like I'm comfortable with that.
So that's true, right? So you and I have talked, Kerri and I have talked about kind of the training and going through this from a counseling standpoint. But it takes just the desire and then to find the people that you connect with. Hint, hint, Kerri, stay here. To see that I can grow in my confidence and experience and knowledge of it, go through the education, blah, 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 but I can do this too. And that's exactly what we're meant to do, right? So Life Change Institute, this is literally a freaking commercial because I want you to see yourself and say, yo, I didn't fit anywhere else, but I made that mold and I made it anyway. And now other people, we love to be different. We love to be not normal was the other word you said, but maybe I'm more normal than you realize. Maybe I'm just got the balls to say it. And you got the balls to sit on the couch here with me and talk about it. And maybe somebody's watching this either now or later is going to be like, damn,
and
there you
that's
go.
why, like, the articles I used to write when I was in school and, like, the stories I write, even if it's just one person that can be like, oh, I don't feel so alone anymore with this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I did what I wanted.
And so part of you, there's a vein to you just similar to mine too, where we're like, you know what? I see the system and screw you. I'm going to show you something different. And so that, again, is motivation enough for you, Kerri, to say, take your challenges, your differences, your perspective on it, say, let me rock this game. And if it sticks, cool. If it doesn't, then I know it wasn't meant to be. But the reason I've got 20-something years in this game, the reason I'm still alive is because I know there's something there. And that's what I have to tell myself. When I don't want to keep going, when I don't want to live, when I don't want to fight anymore, I'm like, yo, but it's reaching somebody. Yeah. And that's the crazy part.
And I always, like, somehow at the right time remember when this person, I've had people reach out to me, like, in my direct messages and be like, yo, I saw the article you wrote. Like, I went and got tested, and now I've been diagnosed with celiac disease, and that my whole life is different now.
So that, it's funny, that was the question that somebody came. What would you tell somebody recently diagnosed? Because they're listening to a story like this or a similar struggle, right? I don't have celiac, I've got diabetes, or somebody else has got MS, or somebody's got, right? And so they're listening to it and just got this sort of ton of bricks dropped on them. They're listening to your story now, fighting from 23 of a loss, 27 of diagnosis, now in your 30s. And what would you tell them?
That there are people out there. Like, you might think I felt like that too. And again, I have the greatest GI doctor. I think that's probably where it started.
You better give her a shout out. You better give her by name.
Dr. Mendu.
Yo, you got to give her a straight shout out. Like, I've heard her too much now.
She is the best. So she's the one that told me look for support groups.
Yeah.
So I looked for in-person support groups,
Yeah.
there weren't any, but then it started leading me to like Facebook support groups. You can find anything on Facebook.
Right.
So, and that's where I started learning, I thought vegan or organic meant it was okay. That's not.
You
It
learned
has to
that the hard
strictly
way,
say
yeah.
like gluten. So
Yep.
it's stuff like that going into it. But these groups were created
Yep.
so you can go in there and learn
Yep.
everything.
Yep.
So
So somebody said in here, and I agree, right? And so because we use again, sort of a harder tone of words, right? Being crazy makes you more real, more relevant, more understanding. And that's often the feedback I get even from me. Like I often joke in my offices here, I'm not a real therapist. Like go to the real therapist if you want help. Like I'm just me. I'm just gonna do what I do. I sit on an exercise ball. I listen to hip hop and I cuss a lot in therapy, and they're like, "What?" But it makes you more relatable, and so be you, and it gives it a sort of a different element enough. I think it's cool to be able to know that you're doing that, even in these conversations. So tell these folks, Kerri, tell them, we've talked about the challenges, we talked about the ongoing, we talked about the frustration of do I do this or not? Where is this taking you? Get to brag on the progress, because yes, it's a struggle, and you're still persevering. Tell me the perseverance part. What are you doing?
Well, I started my own business so that I could work from home, and if I'm sick, oh well. I'm not letting people down. I'm not missing
Right.
out on a paycheck.
Right.
And so
Is it profitable? Is it helping?
it's been about a year and a half, and it's definitely profitable.
That's cool.
And I made it CreativeCeliac. I'm creative. I have celiac, and I wanted it because even if I go to look for like celiac awareness shirts, stuff like that, there was not a lot out there, so that's why I started that. It grew into like the dog stuff, and then another area that I wanted to share was there's not a lot. I grew up with a Filipino Spanish mom and a white dad.
Wow.
So that was another area where I didn't fit into a mold.
Right.
No, with the white people I look different, but with the Filipino I still look different from them too.
Right. Right.
So it's a lot of like the being mixed, not fitting into one mold,
Yeah.
one group, one race,
Yeah.
anything. So
Yeah.
it's people are always being like, hey, can you do this custom for me? Giving me ideas, and I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, can I make this a thing now?
Yeah.
So that's how I start getting.
So is
more,
there the risk is that you spread yourself too thin? Where's the real passion? Like where's the love? Like I love counseling, I love hip hop. Somebody asked me like, why didn't you just pursue hip hop? Like I know I was meant to be a counselor more than a hip hop artist, right? Whether I was good at it or not. You can do t-shirts and art and whatever.
I think I'm still in that phase because until very recently, I was still getting sick on a regular basis.
Right.
So I think right now with this business, it's giving me a bunch of different opportunities to see what I
Yeah.
want. This art thing, though, I really love doing the paint pours. I do it in all.
Yeah.
I did it here.
She did it from my practice here at Meridian.
And I've done it with a few other
Yeah.
therapy places. I've done classes. I've done the classes with the dogs where the dogs
Yeah.
paint.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably going to be like a big thing that I stick with. If I could
I
do
think so,
art
too.
therapy, I would be
I
down
have
for
a
that.
feeling you're gonna be doing stuff with it. So look, I approached Kerri with, knowing that she did some of the merchandise stuff and the apparel stuff. I said, yo, I need help with that as well, and you were willing to do that. Did a paint pour session with my staff here, knowing that just getting into certain things, we look for those things again. And I told a group this morning, Kerri. You got to know that you've got to be willing to share your story and know that people are out there doing the things that you can connect with. Your past and the traumas of your past, the troubles of your past, do not keep you from, right? We often let the lie be real in our head that it's going to keep us from. You've been through a lot and continue to, but it doesn't limit you. Keep going, right?
I think so. I do write, and I've had several short stories published, and I always, growing up, I never had the books, like the things that were
Right.
going on in my life. There was nothing
Right.
that I read. So I read a quote somewhere that said, write the books you want to read. So I write all the stories that have been published now
Yeah.
have some area in
Yeah.
my life
Yeah.
so that somebody can read it and be like, oh,
Yeah.
this isn't this. My friends don't know about
Yeah.
any of this, but I can read this book and I feel a little more
Yeah.
normal.
Man, that's so cool. Look, one of the things I do know about Kerri, I gotta brag on. We don't talk about it enough. But you got a crew of people that you help yourself, and they're not celiac clients or whatever. Tell me about your homies that you help.
My beach readers, they're my homies with extra chromies.
I love that
Yeah,
name.
so
I absolutely love that name.
They're they're adults with different learning disabilities.
Yeah.
They're all my age, 30s.
Mm-hmm.
And again, Dr. Mendu, when I was first diagnosed, she said, I'm going to keep you, I don't want you to work for like 3 months till you get back on your feet. She said, find some sort of volunteer work.
Right.
That's how I got into beach readers. I started volunteering once a week. Now I actually lead the class and teach it. So I started doing that in 2015. So if it wasn't for celiac, I wouldn't have done that.
In illness and in struggles and in trials and loss and trauma, we struggle, right? From a Christian faith-based community, it's being able to thank God for the pain, or thank God for, in communities in general, it's being able to say, bring yourself to a point that you're thankful for the hurt, or thankful for the negative, because it led to. Are you able to say thank you? Like, is that a real, is that, like, I know I'm not there yet. I can see the purpose of my pain. I talk about purpose for pain. It's hard for me to acknowledge thank you. So, like, what do you think with that?
I don't think I'm there yet, but I think I'm able to say, oh, I don't let it stop me. Mm-hmm. That's like my thing, celiac won't stop me.
Yeah.
That's my, like, hashtag I put on everything.
Yeah.
So even if I can't be, like, thankful for it, there are things that have been brought into my life because of it.
Wow.
But it hasn't outweighed what's been taken.
Mm-hmm. Like, for some of us, I wrestle with, like, the goal of, will I be able to be thankful for this? I can see the fruits from some of the trials. I see, in our logo, we've got, like, the phoenix kind of coming out of ashes sort of thing. I can see where it's going. I'm almost there where I can say, that's kind of my goal. Is it your goal to be able to be thankful for?
I've not thought about it like that. I just thought about, as long as it doesn't stop me.
Mm-hmm.
So, the things it took away from me was working and skating. I'm doing both those things, not like in your typical way.
Yeah.
I used to skate like 4 hours a day.
Wow.
Like every single day we would be at the skate park.
Yeah.
So now I'm lucky if I can skate like once a week.
Yeah.
So
that changes when you get old too, so you're still young.
But there's like skaters in their like 60s.
True.
As long as you
Tony
don't
Hawk can
stop
still do
skating.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
So
yeah.
There was like the 2 years I was not able to step on a board because I was so sick. So one of my bargaining was, I don't care if I can skate for 1 day a week. I'll be happy with that. So.
Yeah. It'll be cool to hear your story, Kerri. Like, I should do for all of these life-changing lounges, like doing like the 10 years, like where are they now sort of thing. To hear that story, you're young now, and you're young at heart. No matter what, you're just a wild child anyway. But to hear what it sounds like 10 years from now.
That was my mom's nickname for
me. Yo, shut up.
I got that tattoo, like the first birthday. After she had died, her first birthday, I went and got this wild child tattoo.
Some may not believe. I don't believe in coincidences. I didn't know that, and I think it's hilarious.
And I mean, you can't even see that.
Never
really.
even paid attention to it.
So that's how I got diagnosed with ADD when I was like 8. They would find me like riding my bike at like 3 in the morning. I would sleep outside. So, and my mom was a teacher. She taught 3rd grade for 36 years.
Wow.
So she saw the signs. She could recognize the signs. Most girls back then at age 8 weren't getting diagnosed with ADHD.
Not at all. Most girls now don't.
Yes, exactly. So another stereotype.
Wow, no doubt.
But because I had her and she taught a bunch of 8-year-olds, she saw the signs, got me tested. So that's where that name came from. They go out 3 in the morning, check, is Kerri in her bed? Nope.
I'm giving straight shout out to Kerri's mom because that's crazy. So here's the thing. Life Changing Lounge, we're coming to a close here, this episode. It's been an amazing conversation. I want to know 2 things. 2 things that you bragged on where you get to do things. Some folks want to know, somebody was asking, where can I find your stories? Where can I find your apparel? I know we got CreativeCeliac, but where can we find your stuff, your writings, where can we find you?
It's all on there's a link on my Instagram to everything. On the CreativeCeliac.
CreativeCeliac is Instagram?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Or even Celiac Warrior, which is my personal, there's links to everything on there. One of my books is actually on Amazon.
Yo, let's go.
You pay a whole $1.
I'll say, I'll buy 12 of them pieces. Let's go.
And you know what's funny? That's the first one that I ever had published. It's about a therapist and her relationship with a client.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yo, we gotta go get that. I'm getting that one for sure.
So it was I had to write it for my paper for my last year in college. I had to write a story, and my professor said, I really think you should submit this to be published. And so I wouldn't have done it if he hadn't done that.
What's the name of that one?
It's called Hear It.
Hear It?
I know, it's a weird, Hiraeth.
Okay.
So.
I'm going to find that one. That's cool. So look, here's the last scripted question. Keep the questions coming if you guys got more in the future. Even if you watch this on YouTube later when we broadcast it and post it, lifechangeinstitute@gmail. Last scripted question. To me, life change means, right? Or to me, positive life change. But to Kerri, life change means what?
Probably what makes you a better person. What makes you grow. Because I was at like 27, I was happy with like just the bare minimum, just getting by because of what had happened after my parents died. I was happy. We had a small apartment. Okay, we have a nice place to live. I was happy, I guess, with just settling. Right. So, I guess with the second life change with the celiac, I have grown as a person. I've gotten better. I take better care of myself, not just mentally, but like physically. I don't eat bad anymore. You know, it was like a long time changing all these habits. No doubt. And I was forced to change them. No doubt. So I think it's like, and all in the end, it's made me a better person than I was before. Not that I was a bad person, but you know, that's what made me grow. It's growth, right? Progress and growth. So you're still growing. You acknowledge you're still growing. Does that excite you? To hear that you're still growing, or does it scare you? I think it does, knowing that I can move on, knowing that this might be the healthiest I'll ever be, but it's healthier than I was at my lowest point when I was like, I don't care what happens to me, I just want this to end. No doubt. So I will tell you this, Kerri. That's a great answer. Because of your growth, because of your progress, I've gotten to know you. I looked at my Life Change Institute, you know, being a year and a half, almost 2 years old now, going 2 years next year. And I wouldn't have had the opportunity to have this conversation or made the opportunity. Your growth has allowed, my growth has allowed. We will continue to grow, and it's amazing to think about the people in the lives that we'll touch because we're willing to continue to grow. And I think it's that last acceptance. If I was still like in denial, I'd still be in that spot. I wouldn't be where I am now. And I'll tell you the other part too. Your intentions to impact lives, to change lives, to be outside the mold, to break molds. For those that are wrestling with celiac, those who have, you know, genetic, you know, issues or whatever it is, and you never even realize that you impact me, my team, I don't. My family. I'm just like, oh, I'm going about my life, whatever. Girl, you have no idea, and that's the beauty that is. I think that is just the craziest thing. I'm telling you, and I tell her all the time because I think that we don't hear it enough. Do you realize the impact you actually have and that it's that positive? No bullshit, there's nothing extra gain from that, just to tell you thank you for impacting my life, for impacting my crew's life, my family's life, my wife's life, all of them, right? And you know what? Thank you, Kelly, because if we hadn't met all those years ago. No doubt. But it was because of dogs. You have to owe it to the dogs. Nope, I gave him enough credit. I'm not giving him nothing. Look, she's asleep. Rose is asleep here. So you've impacted my life. Any shout outs you want to give? Anything going away? Anything you want to tell the folks? Just thank you for watching. And even I was like, oh, nobody's going to post in questions or ask questions. So thank you for even watching and throwing in questions. Yeah. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. This is Life Change Lounge. We are wrapping up. Thank you for hanging out with us. Kerri is here with me. Check out CreativeCeliac. Bring the questions. Encourage her to be the art therapist she's meant to be and keep impacting lives. We are about transforming lives to what they were meant to be. Kerri is a part of that, and I'm thankful that we could do it. I'm Sal Ortiz for my Life Change crew. Out. Has it really been an hour? Yo, wow. Flies, we have fun, right?
Amazing.
I was like, oh, we got plenty of time.
Is your book only Kindle?
Yes.
Okay.
No,